Boy Justin here.
We're going to do this. It's going to be great. So, our first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the trailer. We're going to be starting off this episode with 2001: A Space Odyssey. And we're going to look at the
Yes.
trailer. Though Justin has seen the movie, I personally have not. We're going to be taking a look at the trailer as if we've never seen the movie before and analyzing it, trying to see where we think the movie would be taken just from the trailer itself, and basically give our own rating of the movie just from the trailer. And later on, we'll compare it to our trailer analysis once we finish the movie. So let's do it.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a difficult movie to judge just from the trailer. Because it's hard enough to judge what happens in it from the actual movie itself.
Very true.
So, yeah, good luck with that.
All right, well then, let's get to this then. I will move over. And are you ready, Justin, to start that trailer?
Yes.
All right, let's do it in 3, 2, 1.
Dave, do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
No, not at all.
I've wondered whether you might be having some second thoughts about the mission.
How do you mean?
Rumors about something being dug up on the moon. I never gave these stories much credence, but particularly in view of some of the other things that have happened, I find them difficult to put out of my mind.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
So, what are your thoughts on that trailer? I'd say the lighting. Oh my goodness! Like, I know this is an older movie, but like the effects of it looked way ahead of its time. I'm gonna just say that straight off the bat. Like,
Yeah, the effects honestly look like even more impressive than Star Wars, and that came like 11 years later?
yeah, like I'm gonna be honest there too. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but that topped it. That looked realistic. Star Wars like had like its own feel to it, but not that way. That was really cool. I'd say that, like the lighting on the faces, and the eye of that robot, basically that little light, literally communicated so much emotion just from one. It looked really kind of creepy. I'd say like it was pretty good. Um,
Yeah, it was like an emotionless drone, like like in form of like an eyeball sort of symbol,
mm-hmm. Yeah, and
and
like
like the monotone voice really enforced like his words.
and the idea of like if you guys looked at the space shuttles and all that, that was like so spot on to what our space shuttles looked like. Like that's creepy how spot on that was.
Yeah, and the movie came out before the moon landing, so and the effects on the moon look like super realistic. So it's kind of crazy how this came out before the moon landing, but has it looks like more realistic.
Than the moon
Like
landing
it looks
itself.
like well, yeah. It looks like what moon landing would look like in the future, because this movie is basically supposed to take place in the future of humanity, which is why like the guy on the space shuttle was like asleep, because he's so used to just going back and forth to the moon or to the space station that it's become like a common occurrence to him. Like, you know how airplanes used to be, where they're so crazy that they existed and you can fly in the air, and now it's just like you just sleep on them, play video games, you don't really care. It's like the same thing, but in space, like all the way in space. Like it's just another business trip for him.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. So just going off the trailer itself, where do you think this is leading us for the movie? Like with the what looks like a robot of some sort, and then like the moon landing, and then the people covering their ears. Something was obviously happening. Where do you think it's leading us? Just from not knowing what's happening. What do you think?
Uh, of all trailers, this has to be one of the most difficult that will probably be in the entire series to determine,
Yeah.
because even in the movie, even in the context of the movie itself, it's hard to determine exactly what is happening and why it's happening. But in the trailer, especially, because it just looks like a bunch of random clips of things that weren't put together. But in reality, it's all the same movie, and it all serves the same narrative purpose. But it's like you have a shot of an ape like throwing a bone down at one point, shot of a lady walking upside down, shot of a robot. Like so, it's like all over the place.
Yeah, it is kind of
Um,
confusing with that. Um, I I'm personally from not seeing it. I'm thinking that the part where the robot says to Dave, saying, "I'm sorry, I can't do that." My personal guess is that's coming at the end of the movie. Don't spoil it for me, but it just appears like that there's going to be some character development of the AI, and then it's finally going to like take over, and then something like that's going to happen. It just appears that way that it might be leading to
yeah,
that.
yeah, they did edit it in a way where it looked like the robot was gonna be like evil, like an evil sort of presence.
Mm-hmm. And it'd be cool to see how they pull that out in the movie. So
Yeah,
let's rate the trailer. Basically, we're gonna be rating the movie as well in these same things. But first off, with the trailer, here are the categories. Category one, do we think it communicated a narrative of the movie that'll summarize it? Um, B, do we think that the shots that were chosen were properly selected or were there some out of place? C, did it seem basically too chaotic? Unless that fit with the movie, does it seem too chaotic or organized? And then finally, then does it look cinematic? Like, does it have a good feel to it? And then at the end of that, was it revealing too much?
all right. I think from someone who's seen the movie, it did reveal a bit more in certain areas than I would have liked, and it didn't reveal enough in certain areas. Like it didn't reveal. It had like one shot in the entire trailer of the ape section that lasted like 2 seconds. And that's like a huge chunk of the film, and it showed like a bit too much of the. It showed like the one of the best dialogue parts in the entire movie, and it showed one of the highlights in the movie. I don't want to reveal which part it is. I really wish they would have left that out of the trailer though, so I could because that moment is just like a real like eye popping moment.
Mm-hmm.
But they put it in the trailer anyways, although it is an extremely long scene, so they only showed like 10 seconds of it,
So out
so
of
it wasn't that bad.
so out of 5 stars for reveal, five being like it did the perfect amount. What do you think? Your rating? Personally, I'm gonna give it like a 2 because it does seem to reveal a little too much.
Yeah,
From
I'll
it.
give it like probably like a maybe like a 1.5, because I
Okay.
think they could have used other parts of the film, and they really slacked on the one huge chunk of the film by only showing like 2 seconds of it. and that part is like nowhere near as in, like it's supposed to be not super like amazingly mind blowing for a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
but they showed some of the more amazingly mind blowing parts just to try and get you more interested.
Yeah.
But that really discredits the integrity of the movie and going in blind. If you want to see like a trailer beforehand, just to confirm that you want to see it, then you'll see like one of the more major important parts of the movie just out there, and then you won't be as surprised when you see it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next up on this list here. So reveal it's around a 1.5 to 2 stars. Then next up, narrative. Do we think it did a good narrative? Or do we think it kind of was like too jumbled narrative wise?
I think it, like, besides for the severe lack of the ape section, the first section of the movie, it seemed to pretty much encapsulate the narrative of the actual movie pretty well. Because the narrative of the movie, I mean, other than it being out of order because it's a trailer, it encapsulates the movie's narrative because the narrative is kind of like several different sections tied together by interlocking themes and uh, like different events and stuff that like certain events that happen in one section will correlate with events that happen in another section, which will then happen in another section. But they put it in like a trailer format,
Yeah.
so that way you can like watch it like a trailer.
I'd say with the overall like the overlying speech going over top of it, I'd say it did communicate pretty well what it looked like was going on. So star wise out of 5, I'm gonna probably score it a 4. I'd say what do you think your score would be?
Maybe like a 4.5. I mean, I
Okay.
don't know how much better they could have done it, other than yeah. I mean, because it's like such a hard movie to make a trailer for without spoiling major parts of it
Yeah.
and without not making it interesting enough for modern audiences. Because that trailer clearly was a modern trailer and it was edited like a modern trailer. So they had like music in it that wasn't at all in the movie and would not have fit properly in the movie. And it was just like modern trailer movie music. That was because it's a modern trailer.
Yeah. The 50th
And they
anniversary.
yeah, it was for the 50th anniversary showing. And I think that's also why the colors looked off in certain scenes because they used like the dirty old 50th 50-year-old like print of the movie for the trailer,
Hmm.
and like for some reason they didn't clean it up, even though they later did with the later releases of it. For some reason they didn't when they showed it for the 50th anniversary.
Weird
So
way
that's why
to
the
do it.
color. Yeah,
Yeah. So final one here. Do we think it was a little too chaotic, with the scenes it showed, or do we think it was really organized, in the way they selected their scenes?
honestly, like the movie itself, the the chaos is like spread thin, like for a long while. It's not like anything like Pulp Fiction, or just constant chaos, although it's a bit slower than like a Michael Bay movie or something like that. There's it, they just try to take the movie and put it in like a trailer format, so it was like more sped up
Mm-hmm.
and stuff because the movie is very like long and meticulous. But I don't think it was too chaotic, other than the fact that it showed like things that looked like they didn't go together, but they really did.
Yeah, for sure. So scoring wise, out of 5, what do you think?
5 being the most chaotic,
5 would be most would be organized, and then 1 would be chaotic.
maybe like a 4.
Okay, sounds good. I'd agree with that as well. All right, with that, the trailer review is out of the way. It's looking to shaping up to be a pretty good movie, just by looking at the trailer. So let's dive into the movie itself.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that like the first like 3 minutes of the movie is just a black screen with music playing over it because it's supposed to be like because the way the movie is like made meticulously is like to be like a really amazing like thing. It's supposed to be like a sort of like imitate like that of like a musical performance sort of. That was the Dawn of Man section, and now we're going into the Untitled section.
Now, why exactly is it untitled?
I think it's probably because of the sudden use of the 10,000 year cut.
Hmm.
Because I guess he wanted to have it like uninterrupted, so that way the cut would be more effective.
Gotcha. But that's definitely like an amazing cut. The idea of like the bone coming up, spiraling down, and the spaceship is in the shape of it is like that's really amazing. Very
Yeah, and from
classic.
what I understand, the spaceship is supposed to be like a satellite-based, like nuclear warhead station.
Mm-hmm.
So it's showing how, in the course of 10,000 years, humanity has evolved in their use of weapons from a simple bone from a dead animal to space-based nukes.
Wow. That makes it even more detailed. Like I was noticing like when the ape picks up the bone, and starts using it, when they return to the watering hole, they're no longer like squatting like the other ones are. There's a difference in their posture. One's standing, more halfway standing, while the other ones are not, showing that one has advanced farther than the other ones have. Um, uh,
Yeah, and the usage of the what's it called? The stone. I don't know. I can't remember what it's called.
Obelisk?
The Yeah, the monolith.
Yeah.
The usage of the monolith in the Dawn of Man section, to me, it shows like it like taught the apes how to evolve and become more like it was like the next step in evolution to make them become more human.
Mm-hmm.
Because then they started learning how to use the bone as a weapon, and then they could eat meat, and then they could conquer territory. So
Take.
it's like it unlocked their next step in evolution.
Yeah. And like
That's,
I'd say VFX wise, like the use of matte paintings was actually pretty good, and then like the practical effect of using the costumes. The costumes were so well done. Because nowadays we only use CG, but the fact that you can make a realistic looking ape just with a costume, like there's some flaws like the eyes and all that, but like it still looked amazing.
yeah, especially for the time. Like, look up any movie that came out. I think there was like a movie that came out the same year as that, and the costume looked like the kind of costume you'd find nowadays at like Party City. That's what most of the costume looked like up until then.
Like you
Rookie
guys didn't know
costumes.
when you went to Party City, you're just buying old movie costumes. Your monster costume, it was made in an old, used in an old movie. Ape costumes used in those old ape movies. Just facts.
Yeah, and it looked even more convincing with the use of actual apes and
Yeah,
actual animals. Like you could
honestly,
tell they're real animals because you could see like the light in their eyes from the way they were filmed.
honestly, like that was a risky move because you place the real deal beside what is being faked, and they were risking showing how like showing the flaws in the suit by revealing showing a real deal monkey, a real deal ape with them. But it actually the risk was worth it because it definitely added to it, made it more realistic. So like it was a very risky play by the director.
Yeah,
I
and the usage of the backgrounds was fantastic.
Yeah.
It, so incredible because, like, I think that was like a newer sort of technique back then,
Mm-hmm.
where they like projected the backgrounds from behind, so that way they didn't have to like green screen it in and it looked really awkward. but instead it looked like natural, like he was actually part of it.
Yeah, and like
Very well done.
obviously from today's standpoints, it didn't look realistic. Like, oh, you can tell that it's fake, but that's because we've used so much CG. But like for then, taking it from where it was in history, that was amazing. And I just personally, I want to find out if you guys know, definitely tell me, like, link a video, something about what happened to that stuntman that they got attacked by that jaguar, because I have absolutely no clue how they did that. That's like, did they just have him straight up attack him? Was it like a trainer in the suit? But like, did the jaguar recognize him? Was it a trained jaguar? I don't know.
They might have had like the suit might have been like specially padded, so that
Oh,
way.
that would make sense.
Yeah,
Kind of like the fireproof suits when someone in a movie gets lit on fire, but jaguar proof.
yeah, that might be it. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I never really thought much about it actually.
That's a good guess. So yeah, that's the Dawn of Man section. Are we ready to go into the Untitled section?
Yes.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. How's everything going?
Marvelous. Have no... we have no complaints.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that, and I'm sure that the entire world would join me in wishing you a safe and successful voyage.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
So what do you think so far?
Quite the build-up.
That's for sure. Hal's obviously malfunctioning. He's quite creepy. I mean, he has no face to show emotions. It's just a red dot on the screen, and yet it conveys so much, and the monotone voice is so creepy.
And he's always watching. See, he was like reading the lips.
Yeah.
And he's like in every part of the ship. It's like in several different areas in the main area, and he's in the ship loading zone. He's in other areas too.
In a weird way, it's kind of like a horror movie that you're trapped with insane glitching robot kind of thing. It's got control of everything, and you can't really do anything to stop it.
Yeah, and it only like escalates further in the next part.
Oh boy. Well,
That wasn't
figures.
the end of that wasn't the end of the section. It was just an intermission because this is an old movie.
Hmm.
Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal?
So what are your thoughts?
That was really disturbing. Watching him like slowly die.
My question is, like, since we have like 30 minutes left in the movie, is he actually dead? Um, I have a feeling with Hal's logic, he's got a backup somewhere. I don't know. It's just personally what it seems like it. He's very conniving. Very tricky.
Honestly, the question of whether Hal's actually dead or not is like completely irrelevant to the events of the fourth part.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because some serious stuff goes down. Part
Ooh,
4.
I can't wait. I'm guessing aliens, then.
Oh, oh, so something like that, kind of. Not really, but also kind of in a way.
I'd say, like, the execution of part 3 was, like, it started off slow, like, very, very slow. Just, like, the breathing part, but it's kind of, like, it bringing up the anticipation of what's going to happen and also intensifying it, even though it's extremely slow. It places you kind of in the mindset of the character, in the kind of like that feeling of being helpless, the amount of time that it's taking him. You can't really speed up, you can't really. It's just like, it makes it feel like what's going to happen is inevitable.
Yeah, and like there's an actual plot, follow the actual characters,
Yeah.
and it explains like why the event on the moon is like top secret and why the there's such secrecy around the Jupiter mission itself. Although we come to find out something quite unexpected happened that I don't think any of the people on Earth could have ever imagined. But we'll find that out in a minute here.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah. Well, you ready to get back into it?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. So, what's your take on part 4?
Wait, so what do you think happened though?
Two theories. One, he died. Two, he was kind of like transported by the intelligence somewhere, which with the advanced technology or whatever they use, like it's like so much overwhelming that he like freaked out. And then him seeing an older version of himself is kind of like him being kept there. He's not actually seeing himself. It's just kind of a weird transition to the passing of time. And then he dies, and then I guess they rebirth him, revive him, something like that. As a child, I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's something similar to that. Like the final monolith was like a gateway to like a wormhole through space and time, and transported him eventually into the like final resting place where he lived out as an old man until he died, and then was reborn as like a star child. And it was like because it went into the monolith there at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he's about to descend upon Earth as a newly evolved form of human. Like he's the next step in the evolution of humans. So he's about to be delivered onto Earth.
One thing's for sure, that was a very long thing, and if you, if you're prone to seizures by flashing lights, don't watch this movie. At least part 4. My
Yeah, I
goodness.
mean, there's more just crazy colors and stuff. I think that might be honestly maybe the most impressive visual effect is the Stargate sequence
Yeah, it's
because
very pretty.
they didn't have anything close to CGI back then,
Mm-mm.
so they had to do that all by like hand. One, I understand it took them an insanely long time just to do that part because every single frame took like days to make because they had to use like actual physical stuff
How
and
long?
like take the top part, the bottom part, and put them on simultaneously, and then like
Kind of like how the lightsabers were painted on for Star Wars, except on a much bigger scale for painted on.
yeah, because they used the deck thing to make it much easier to like rotoscope onto it.
It's just insane
So,
how much work would have gone into that.
from what I understand, according to Stanley Kubrick, at the end part with Dave seeing older versions of himself,
Mm-hmm.
the way that the events in the film happen, like the way they're shown, is the way that Dave experiences them. So he sees like older versions of himself progressively until he's just too old and then becomes reborn. So it happens all in the span of like real time in the movie, the way he experienced it.
Mm.
But from like a logical perspective, he really did just like live there until he was too old and just died. But that's not the way he experienced it, but it's the way that it happened.
It's mind-boggling, like just to think of that. Well, with part 4 done and the movie done, it's time to rate it. So basically, we'll go through different categories: visual effects, acting, cinematics. So basically, your cinematography. And narrative, basically the story itself, the story itself, and finally, and then put all those together and give it a score, a final score.
So I
So
suppose we should start with visual effects then.
yeah, so 5 stars being the best visual effects you've ever seen in your life, and 0 being it didn't have any, or it did and it was garbage. Um, what would you rate this? I personally, because of the effects in it, there's like some flaws. Taking into account the time period, I'm gonna give it like a 4 though.
Honestly, I'd have to give it a 5 because when this came out, this is like the greatest film like ever put to the screen.
Very
It had
true.
like the visual effects on this thing were like the most groundbreaking they've ever been since the original King Kong in
Mm-hmm.
1933. They blew so many things open from the Stargate sequence to the monkey suits to the everything spaceship related entirely. It was so impressively well done that almost all of it looks extremely realistic to this day.
Yeah.
Like
My
it looks more
goodness.
real than most films do nowadays because they rely on CGI and they want to come out as soon as possible, so they don't give the artist enough time to make it as detailed as possible.
Yeah, that's very true in today's Hollywood systems. So that's looking like a 4.5 stars for VFX, combining ours. So next up, I believe is cinematic, so like cinematography, which I'm gonna have to rate like a
Perfect 5 out
5.
of 5.
Yeah, 5. Like it was beautiful. Almost every single shot is an artwork. You can freeze frame it and put it on your wall. It's so pretty.
Yeah, I think pretty much almost every frame in the entire movie, every single shot, you can put on your wall confidently, even if it's something awkward like a close up of some guy's face.
Like it
Like,
still looks amazing. Like personally, my probably favorite thing out of all of it was like the shot where or it's 2 shots. One where it's like his helmet and it's showing the Stargate sequence, but like from his helmet's reflection of it, and the other one would be when he's unplugging the computer, and like the red background behind him, it just looks so good. Personally, those are my favorite shots from it.
yeah, my favorite shots from it would probably be like the entire like ending sequence in like the white room,
Mm,
like going slowly from shot to shot. As he slowly gets older and older with each passing glance of himself. It's just like that. I don't think I've ever seen that sort of thing done before or since.
definitely is a masterpiece. Um, so that's our cinematic. So what do you rate it? So we rated it 5, unanimously. So storytelling, the story itself, 5 stars being the best story ever, cohesive, makes sense. 0 being it was completely garbage, rushed. What would you rate this story?
Honestly, I think the the it's like not just the story, but the way the story is told that makes this movie such a classic.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't like it gives you just enough information for you to make up your own like interpretation of it, of what happened in the story. It gives you just enough details and context clues for you to make up the story on your own,
Yeah,
which is what makes it so special. So I'd have to give it like a 5 out of 5 stars. It's just
I would
like
agree.
unbelievable,
It's like
so
it
incredible.
seems chaotic, but the chaotic is actually good. The slowness is storytelling in its own. And if you're impatient, you may not see that, but it's superb personally. Even though I like fast-paced things, like I'm fine with sitting through this. I actually enjoyed sitting through it because it's so good. It's so rich, with content.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's so interesting how it's super chaotic but incredibly slow all at once.
yeah, like how they combine those two. They usually go against each other, but they work. Um, so final one here is characters. How do you rate the characters, the actors who played them, um, with their their movements, their facial expressions, the line delivery, things like that. What do you think? What are you feeling for that?
Well, I think they were all perfect in the way they needed to be, because most of the dialogue in the film was kind of flat and uninteresting, because that's not the point. And even when it is, it's just basically like inputting like themes very extremely subtly. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you picked up on it, but birthdays were mentioned multiple times in the movie in dialogue scenes, and that plays like a big part of like the theme of the movie. Like they act like incredibly realistic, because like they just act like normal people. They don't say anything super interesting or mind blowing most of the time, because it's just normal people, and like the way it's portrayed is like super magical and just like a sense of awe, because it's supposed to be like a normal day to these people in space, but for us it's like peering into the future.
Yeah,
So
yeah, like going back to our previous conversation of how everyone was wearing like business suits, but it was just normal, or falling asleep on space flights. To us, it's just weird because we've never done that before. And like I'd say my favorite scene for the acting, like Hal, oh my goodness, he's amazing the whole movie. That robot, the guy that did the voice was superb, line delivery, everything. Um, but I'd say my favorite scene that showed how realistic it was when they're doing the interview for the news network, and he asked them a question, and they both cut each other off, and one of them laughs it off, and then they continue. It's so natural. Like, that's what happens when people talk. You just cut someone off, and then the other one laughs it off and then keeps going. It's just real. And so, like, every single line of dialogue, I'd say, is, like, believable. It's not like the whole, like, who would say that in real life? You never get that moment.
yeah, and like every scene with Dave in like the last like 50 minutes of the movie is incredibly well acted. Like it's like super subtle in some scenes. Like he's not just like over the top, like oh, he's like subtle about it, like how angry he is, or how like scared he is, or like a mixture of the two, or like in the part where he arrives in the White Room, where he's like all shaken up from like in flight through space and time, and he's like going crazy over it, but then he's just old and out of the spaceship, and the spaceship is just gone now. Like that's just incredible.
For sure.
I'd
It,
have to give that like a 5 out of 5, honestly.
yeah, I have to as well.
Like it's purposely made to just be like normal people in like extraordinary circumstances, but they're just doing ordinary things from their perspective.
Very well done. So with all of those categories, what do we think the movie as a whole falls under? Do we think it's like I'll name off the categories. Do we think it's a complete garbage? Definitely not. Um, is it just average, good, great, amazing, the best movie, or a masterpiece?
Masterpiece, easily.
Yeah, definitely, hands down. Going in our masterpiece class for sure. So yeah, that is 2001: A Space Odyssey. Um, so yeah, that was something. That was an adventure. Justin, thank you for joining me and doing it with me, going through this amazing film, this classic masterpiece. And we'll see you guys next episode as we're looking at a new movie. Um, and it's going to be hilarious. It's a comedy. I'm not going to reveal what it is. You guys will have to wait and see. But one thing's for sure, you guys will be laughing your butts off. We will see you then. That's all for Critical Cinema, and make sure to catch us and watch all the previous videos that we've made. See you next time.